Jacob, all alone with God. For every believer, there's a time and a place for an aloneness with God where there is a total surrender. And what an amazing thing that Jacob himself was wrestling with the Lord. But Jacob became a marked man, as we know that his hip, the joint of his hip, was touched. Because the Lord said to him, I must go, it is daybreak. And yet Jacob said, I will not let thee go until you bless me. Yet you would have thought, was Jacob not already blessed? Just think of it. It was him and the Lord. Not him and his wife and the Lord, or him and the children and the Lord, or him and anybody else. It was Jacob and the Lord alone. Have you been in that place? Have you come to that place of Peniel, face to face with God? It's a wonderful thing, yet an awesome thing, and a fearful thing. And yet, Jacob prevailed. But in a sense, he was overcome. So even though he wrestled with the man that turned out to be the Lord's, still the Lord showed that he was the superior one by touching his thigh joint. Any man that's been with God and been overcome by God is a marked man for life. There are many lessons in this, many lessons that we could all learn. But what a wonderful thing. I believe it was Charles Wesley that wrote to him about it, about a stranger coming in the night. You see, it was dark, it was night time, and Jacob wouldn't have been able to see the face of the Lord really, although he's face to face with him, but he wouldn't have been able to see his full features, but just the outline. And when the stranger came to him, towards him, he must have wondered, who is this? Who is this? You know, it could have been an enemy coming to steal his flocks or to do mischief. And the stranger just took a hold of Jacob immediately. And Jacob thought, I'll have to wrestle this man to get him off me, And of course, they wrestled and embraced. And the Lord held him in that wrestling position until he did Jacob's thigh a blow. Well, there are many lessons in this, but meditate on it. Have we come to that place? Every one of us has to come to that place, beloved, where we are alone with God and have the whole thing out with him. You see, Jacob, his name means twister. And look at all the things that happened in his life, plotting and planning all the time. But he had to come an end to this plotting and planning and just totally surrender to the living God. But what a magnificent thing in the whole of this episode, that a man seemingly prevailed with God, and yet he didn't. But because he hung on, the Lord said, you shall be called Israel, a prince with God, because you have prevailed. And so there comes a time in our life where we have to lock ourselves away and prevail with God, so to speak. Beloved, have you been to Peniel? have you seen the face of God?